Welcome to the Texas Values Report. This is Jonathan Saenz, president of Texas Values. Great to be with you on another glorious week in the state of Texas. Hope you're doing well. We're having some technical issues, so if you hear some different voices, sounds, and things that seem like out of order, we apologize in advance. So we're trying to get this sorted out. I don't even know if you're watching now. I'm just here doing what they told me to do behind the camera. And we do have a guest today, State Representative Steve Toth, and he has been so patient to wait with us. Representative Toth, can you hear me? I can hear you.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Then that,
frankly, we're getting so much done on the Texas House floor right now that sitting around waiting on you, Jonathan, is not a problem.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And that probably means the rest of the world can hear us then if you and I can hear each other. Let me see what my phone is telling me if we're actually live. It looks like we're good on all fronts. Well, let me see here if the feed is coming up. Okay, there we go. So welcome everybody again to the Texas Values Report. I just walked out of the Capitol about half an hour ago to walk over to the studio, and man, it is cold. And so there are many reasons why I was like, I'm ready to leave. No, but I went over there to stop and see how things were going. Committee assignments are out in the House. They've been out for a little bit on the Senate, but there's been some, anticipation about when the House committees would come out. Not unusual for them to come out after the Senate, particularly when you have a new speaker. But I know there's been some concern that maybe it could have happened sooner. Whatever the case may be, they're out. Now we've got some idea about who's going to be in control on some of these issues and how things are organized. And I would expect we're going to see some committee hearings getting scheduled pretty soon in the Texas House. And where did you land, Representative Toth? You got your committee assignments?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Environmental quality, which creates a lot of problems and a lot of regulations on small and medium and large businesses and stifles growth. So that's going to be a great committee to be on to kill bad legislation
Right.
that Democrats put up. I am very excited about that.
Yeah.
And I'm also on elections, which was my seniority pick. And we always need to do more. There's so much more work that needs to be done to secure elections in Texas.
And
so
I would
really fired up.
I would believe, or it would seem to me that with the outcomes of the most recent elections, I could, a lot of confidence in them, or a little bit more, because of a lot of focus on election issues over the past 4, 6, if not 8 years. Now, a lot of that had to do with the president's race, obviously Senator Cruz winning by large margins, but I think if those races would have been a little bit closer, you would have seen people wonder whether or not our election integrity work was doing its job. But that doesn't mean that others won't be trying and that there aren't still some issues to resolve. I mean, look what's going on in Harris County. I mean, the leadership there is just, it's a total mess. There are lawsuits left and right. There are people that are being indicted criminally that were working for the government, whether it was the city or the county. I know your district's close to that. You're in House District 15, which is Montgomery County, but not too far from, some of the city limits of Houston. And obviously Harris County and Montgomery County are right up next to each other. So I'm sure you're seeing some of those things. But, look, a lot of focus has been on the national work because of a new president. Trump has been just, spitting out incredible executive orders left and right. Obviously, finally a president that's actually going to do something. And I guess maybe it was good that Biden wasn't doing so much, because he would have just made a lot of mess in a lot of areas. But nonetheless, there is an important state legislative session that's upon us, right? And I think that with that, with Trump in office and a lot of other people that you and I are friends with up there, if you will, that are friendly, less animosity, right? You can get your work done, and maybe with some support and some backup, at least, in theory or on social media or publicly, from people that are in part of the Trump administration and other leaders in Washington, D.C. By the way, breaking news, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been confirmed as Health and Human Services Secretary. So big news coming out of Washington, D.C. But our focus is on the state of Texas, and that's what I want to focus on today. You have some important bills that you filed, and I know there's a lot of consternation about how this House has, this session's begun in the House, the leadership of Dustin Burrows as Speaker, and feel free to talk about any of that you want. The heart of these things, though, relate to what are we going to get done this session. And so I know you've got some important bills that you've filed, and I want to give you an opportunity to talk about them because, whether someone's in leadership or not, I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but the opportunity is there for us to get some good work done.
Yeah, I'm really excited about my committee assignments, but really excited about the legislation that we're going to advance this session. You pinch yourself that, Jonathan, that you and I, that God allowed us to be in this place at this time, this season of our lives, in this season of history, in the fight for life. And there is no greater injustice in the world than the murder of unborn children. And the very thought that Democrats would put anything on the House floor, and I'm not even going to say her name, the former head of Planned Parenthood.
But look,
she's a monster.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting. I was thinking about that this morning. There are people in our past in America that have been a part of, atrocities that relate to mass disregard for life. And so, I thought about whether or not I was going to take that step out there, and I get it. There are people that, Republicans and Democrats are not always going to agree on, but, they'll have a resolution and, someone passed away and just trying to be polite. But I don't think it's anything to celebrate. And I do think a lot of that has to do with where we are now as a state and as a society. And the fact that we've become so pro-life, right? And it's not just the laws, but that's certainly a part of it, the culture. A lot of the reason that people are having abortions is because the law allowed them to, sadly, right? Now that we've made it clear that these things are illegal because it's immoral and it's the taking of an innocent human life, you've seen that number drop. There's some arguments about whether or not, people are going out of state and things of that nature, but it's dropped to almost, little to none, right? In many ways. So we got to deal with some of the stuff related to the prescription drugs coming in the mail. I'm not discounting that there's not still work to do, but a substantial amount of babies' lives are now being saved every year from abortion, when we had 50,000 every year just in the state of Texas. But I think as we move further along from that point, from June of 2022, when Roe versus Wade was overturned, and then our laws went into effect, at least one law here in the state of Texas, the Texas heartbeat law, was already in effect. The more time that builds up from that, I think we're going to see the abortions go down, and people are going to look back and go, wow, did we allow that to happen? And who were some of the people that were a part of it? And these things can change every 2 years, right? I mean, It's unlikely at this point, but, that's a part of the process. We can't take anything for granted. And, the last time I saw, well, not the last time I saw you, last time we were together in your district, we were having an event. I think it was either in or a part of your district or part of Montgomery County at Steve Riggle's church at Grace Woodlands with Riley Gaines, who is not only a role model and a leader on Save Women's Sports, on privacies, for women in lockers, shower rooms, and so on. She's very pro-life. This next generation is very committed to these issues, and I think we're moving in a great direction. And so the opportunity to lock some things down even more during the session is really important.
Yeah, she's amazing, and I'm just really excited about the legislation that we've got. And you brought up the heartbeat bill. The heartbeat bill, when you and I first got behind that, it had a criminal penalty in it. And the next session, we came back with Jonathan Mitchell's version of it, which created a civil penalty. And the coolest thing is that day one, when that bill went into effect after TXVALUES helped us get that passed, Planned Parenthood in the state of Texas basically said, "Oh, nuts. What are we going to do?" And they closed down. They stopped all abortions in the state of Texas. They didn't even challenge it in the courts.
Yeah,
it had a civil penalty that could not be beat. We're doing the very same thing. We're doing the very same thing with the pill, and this is our pill bill.
Yeah, what's the bill number?
991.
Got it. Tell us about it.
We still need some small changes to it that we want to add to it in committee. I'm dealing with people that deliver the pill from out of state, but I really think it's going to take care of about 75% of kids that are being killed, children that are being killed right now currently. So
Oh,
it's a great
it's
bill.
a huge issue, and it sort of goes under the radar because of how those pills come through the mail or the different ways that they're transmitted. And you had a federal government who was looking the other way. I don't think that's going to be the case with Trump. He's cut off a lot of funding already to Planned Parenthood and shown some big moves on these issues. And but that's been key. Having a state law like that, but not having the federal government undercut us. As a matter of fact, I saw a report yesterday that there's someone that Trump has nominated to the Office of Civil Rights for Health and Human Services, a name that we're familiar with. I'll talk a little bit more about that later this week when the news filters out more. But Trump is putting the right people in place. So when we pass these strong state laws, we don't have to worry about the government coming around and trying to undo them. And you're also working on addressing these issues on the sexuality and the sexualization of children. We know a week or so ago, our good friend Dr. Heim had the criminal charges dropped against him. He was the whistleblower at Texas Children's Hospital. By the way, he's going to be speaking at our Faith and Family Day on March 6th at the Texas Capitol. But there's still some work to do. I know you got a great bill, House Bill 2258, that you're working on that addresses those issues too.
Right. And again,
what is that, by the way, for the
what's
people
that?
out there that don't know what you're holding up? Tell us what that is.
So this is my bill book. This is the bill, and as it has been filed.
So in that book, tell people what's in there. There's a copy of the bill, and what else is in there?
So there's a copy of the bill, and I don't have my signature sheet. I have a blue signature sheet in it, which that's what I'm going to be taking from desk to desk to desk, asking
on the House floor.
And on the bill on the House floor. Yep. And this is another bill that Jonathan Mitchell wrote. And it's so cool because, man, we are so blessed to have that guy in the state of Texas. He's amazing. He was Solicitor General after Cruz left. And again, another civil penalty bill. And this is an issue.
And if Jonathan's watching, I hope he doesn't take this the wrong way, but he's like Kaiser Soze, right? Of that, the movie, the Usual Suspects. I'm not saying it's a family movie to watch, but it does have some humorous parts to it. But it's like, who's seen the guy? Does he exist? He's in the shadows somewhere. I mean, I have met him before, just so you know. But if he's in my neighborhood at night, I don't sleep too well. No, I'm kidding. Jonathan Mitchell is is extremely intelligent. The guy's brilliant, and he's very creative, and he understands. He anticipates 2-3 steps in advance to know where the other side's going and what to do, and the power of having words written the right way. And look, we're doing stuff on a big stage. Okay, this is Texas.
Well, what's really critical about this legislation, and we had a bill, and he said, "Love it, great bill. Won't stand the court test though, Steve." and he laughed at me, and I didn't take it personally. I'm like, hey, this is Jonathan Mitchell. I'm cool.
That's why he's there.
But what he has looked at all the bills, and none of them are going to stand the test challenge, because when you're dealing with how you're counseling children, there's a speech issue, there's a First Amendment issue, and what you can and can't tell that you can't stand in the way of. And so as we spent more time with him and Rebecca Smith from Love Heals Youth, she had pointed out that the result of the speech is what's known as alienating behavior. And so counselors, therapists, pastors, wayward pastors, James Tallarico kind of pastors. Excuse me, can I say that?
Is Tallarico a pastor? Is that what he calls himself?
He is studying to be a pastor. He's in seminary right now.
I can't. Okay, I'll let you say what you want.
I'm going to have fun with him. He knows I'm going to have fun with him. But anyways, here's the point. The point is that alienating behavior that these therapists bring about in children, where they say, don't tell your mom and dad. Mom and dad don't understand. If they find out about it, tell them, Mom, Dad, would you rather have a live son or a dead daughter? That's creating alienating behavior. You're telling these kids, don't trust mom and dad. Come to me, talk to me, but don't talk to your mom and dad about the struggle that you're facing right now. And what this bill does is that any of that counseling that leads to alienating behavior, which is 100% of it, will lead to a civil suit of $10,000, much like the heartbeat bill. Well, but it goes above and beyond that. Jonathan, because what it enables these kids to do, it creates a statute of limitations of 20 years. And what they don't tell these kids is that, if you go on a puberty blocker, whether you're male or female, and then females, if you go on testosterone, males, if you go on estrogen, the Lupron, the 4-year period, 3-year period that you're on the Lupron for boys and girls, and then the estrogen for boys, the testosterone for girls, it's going to mean within 6 years, 7 years, you're sterile. Not only are you sterile, you can't enjoy any kind of sexual function later on when 80% of these kids are going to desist or detransition from it. They're going to be sterile and will not be able to enjoy the beauty of sex that God had created for a husband and wife.
Well, we're talking with State Representative Steve Toth from the Montgomery County area, just north of Houston, House District 15, about some different legislation that he's working on and some very important issues. It's like the wild, wild west, okay, with some of this, junk science that's involved with trying to transition kids. And, the concept you talked about in alienation is not anything new. This is a very common concept that's been studied for years, primarily in divorce settings, right? In those settings, they call it parental alienation, where one parent really engages in this wholesale effort of making the other parent look bad, or, talking down on them, and just to where the child does not want to spend time with the other parent, right? And it can be a real phenomenon. And so, sad to hear it in this context, but I know there's a lot of validity to that. And it speaks to how precious children can be, and how impressionable, and how they can be manipulated in a lot of these circumstances. And these are things that we're learning, right? While these things were going on, while they're operating on kids or doing all these things, they have no idea, or even they did, they don't seem to be really concerned about the side effects of kids. And so I think what you're doing is really important, and the mood is there, right? We look we look at what's happening with the Trump administration. We look at what's happening in other states. People are moving in a direction to say these things are bad for kids. They're dangerous, long-term, short-term. We've seen enough, and the political movement's over. The Democrats have lost a handle on their party in large part because of issues like this. You've got people like Chloe Cole and others that detransitioners out there that are saying, stop, this is not good. I went through this. They're saying, and it devastated my body, and I was not told the truth. And so look, and for years people were making a lot of money off of it, but and you working with Jonathan Mitchell, finding the right words, all these things. This session, I believe, gives us an opportunity to show how serious these issues are, how serious we are about them, and how important it is to have some real enforcement to put a stop to a lot of this stuff.
Can I just add one more thing? Is that Chloe's on board with this. Chloe and her stepbrother Mitch are completely on board with this. So is Prisha. Prisha. Prisha's on board with this.
And these are people that testified 2 years ago on some of these issues on SB 14 in the Texas Capitol. And, and so it's good to have those folks still involved in the process, because, few people can speak to it like they can.
But one of the things that Jonathan again said is that, and Jonathan, I'll share this is my biggest concern, my fear is that the Democrats are going to get behind, and the moderate Republicans are going to get behind one of these other bills that the courts are going to stop. Yeah. And that's the problem. This is the only bill that is going to pass court muster and actually protect our kids. And one of the other things that I didn't go on to tell you is that 20-year statute of limitations, and for kids that have been damaged, they can come back 20 years later, and the punitive damages start at $10 million in this legislation. Yeah. I mean, it would bankrupt Planned Parenthood.
Well, look, I mean, and what is, you can't put a price on someone's life when they're devastated that way. I mean, people think that it's, they sometimes just sort of, shrug their shoulders as if it's not that big of a deal. I mean, giving up the ability to be a father, a mother, to raise a family, you can't put a price on those things. And sometimes that's the only way people understand it. When money's involved and they realize, oh, that's going to hurt a little bit more. Yeah. Now we got your attention. We'll see how things go on those issues. But I think it's, this category of topics is one of the most important issues that we're going to see play out And now there's people talking about it more robustly. You've got the Trump administration out there with an executive order saying, we're going to cut your federal funding off. If you're a doctor or a hospital or whatever and you're involved in these sex change operations for kids, it's gotten real quick, right? It's gotten real serious.
Yeah.
And we'll see if, and I'm, sadly there'll be some people that'll be out there to resist, but I think that Texas can lead on these type of issues. We are one of the largest states, 8th largest economy, not in the country, in the world, right? So I think the moves that we make could make a difference. Tell me about your, are you hearing a lot of talk about this issue amongst your House colleagues, and not just your bill? I mean, you could talk about your bill specifically, but just overall, it seems like there's a lot more conversations amongst House and Senate members on these issues too.
Yeah, I don't think there's, and you said it, there's never been a better time to move legislation like this forward. There is a strong push to now more than ever to move legislation like this for the very simple reason that Democrats have been so far to the left, so far on the wrong side of this thing. And even now they're doubling down on it. They're just absolutely doubling down. And the level of disgust by the right, the center, and center left against what the Democrats are doing on this, they've crossed the line. And now's the time with that energy that we've got to step in and save these kids.
No, I agree. We're talking with State Representative Steve Toth from the Montgomery area, House District 15. And there are some times, and I don't like to talk about this, it is a part of the reality that we will pass legislation, but then there's not a strong enforcement mechanism, right? Even though there's significance to the law being passed in some ways to enforce it, there always seems like, well, we wanted the language a little bit stronger, then this happened, and so on. So I think this is one of those sessions where we can be real aggressive about that and say we want some of the strongest protections in place. We want some of the strongest enforcement. We see what our Attorney General is doing, right? He's going after school districts who are saying they're going to allow boys to go into girls and compete in girls sports. He's going after doctors that they're finding out that are, participating in sex change operations on kids. So you got an Attorney General in the office there. They're going to back us up on those type of things. And so, and look, I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. I mean, the climates can change as far as, the makeup of the House and Senate. I don't anticipate that a whole lot, but you've got to really focus on now. And the way things are aligned right now, at least for the time during this legislative session, I don't think we've ever had a better opportunity. And so I'm glad for you doing what you're doing, and I'm hoping to be out in your district. As a matter of fact, Faith and Family Day, March 6th, we're going to have Representative Toth out there speaking. It gives a lot of House members and Senate members an opportunity to come by for a few minutes, say hello. In the buses that are coming from the Houston area are coming from Grace Woodlands, speaking of Steve Riggle's church. So get on the bus, all right, and come from Grace Woodlands. We're going to make it real affordable to ride the bus from Houston. March 6th is going to be a great day. Representative Toth, thanks for all the great work you're doing, and I look forward to seeing you at the Capitol again soon. And thank you for being our guest today on the Texas Values Report.
God bless you, Jonathan. And I just can't express my gratitude for Texas Values and everyone that supports Texas Values. You guys have no idea what a blessing this ministry, this organization is at helping us advance the ball and push back the darkness in the state capitol.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Good stuff. Okay, great to have Representative Toth on for a good segment there. Good 22 minutes, and I'm almost out of time. All right, as he exits the Zoom room, I've got a minute and a half just to go over a couple of things, some highlights. As I mentioned while he was still on, Texas Faith and Family Day is on March 6th, okay? We got a little bit later start on getting the word out. We were trying to navigate some logistics. We were also trying to confirm having the Lieutenant Governor there. He will be there. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick will be speaking at Texas Faith and Family Day. This is not a fundraiser. This is not getting a bunch of friends together to sit down and have a nice meal. This is a grassroots event to learn about what's going on at the Capitol, who are the people that are involved. That's in the morning. The second half of the day, it's at the Capitol. We're going to meet with elected officials. You're going to go to committees. You're going to talk to people. You're going to put all the things you learned in the morning into action later that day. We're going to have Chick-fil-A served at lunch for box lunch from 12 to 1. So in the morning from 9 to noon, we're going to have people, elected officials, group leaders, other people speaking about different bills in the process. Lieutenant Governor is going to be one of those speakers, Senator Angela Paxton. We're also going to have Representative Ellen Troxclair and other people on the list, Representative Hillary Hicklin, Dr. Heim. This is the doctor who was the whistleblower who told the truth about what Texas Children's Hospital was doing with sex change operations and puberty blockers on kids. The Biden Department of Justice brought criminal charges against him. He was almost going to jail for 10 years. Then Trump got elected and said, no, you don't. And the Department of Justice dropped the charges against him. But that was about a 2-year ordeal that he had to go through, worried about that and concerned, and had to get a lawyer and went through about a bunch of court process. Anyway, he's going to speak. You've got to be there when he talks about his experience and how important it is to get state legislative session done. Listen, I'm almost out of time, and you're going to run out of time to sign up. It's only $5 to go to Faith and Family Day. It's not a fundraiser. This is just a way to really offset some of our costs. It costs more than that for a box lunch at Chick-fil-A. You know that. But we're trying to make it easy and affordable. $5, bring everybody. We got buses coming from Houston, buses coming from Dallas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, I think in Plano. I don't know if I can name the church yet. We'll get back to you on that. Watch our website. But Central Texas has a bus coming out from the Fredericksburg area. If you want to sponsor a bus from another part of the state, we'd love to have it. We want a big group out there. TexasFaithandFamily.com is the website. Texas Pastor Council is going to be one of our sponsors. One of our outreach projects, Church Ambassador Network of Texas, is going to be one of the event sponsors. So tons of good reasons to come to that event and good reasons to donate to Texas Values at TXVALUES.org. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The only way we continue to exist is donations from charitable and generous people like you. Texas Values University, by the way, our online educational portal is going to be launched within another week or two. If I can get focused on the last bit of review I need to do for that project, man, we are so close. I could not be more excited. And this is just the beginning. This is just going to be phase 1 of Texas Values University, but it's an online educational portal. Perfect time for you to get signed up for that and learn everything that goes on at the Capitol and be prepared for Texas Faith and Family Day and a lot of other stuff during this legislative session. All right, I'm out of time. TXValues.org. Make a donation there. Help us protect faith, family, and freedom in Texas. And we'll talk to you next week on the Texas Values Report.